"How long until they fire?" she asked. A younger officer, Lieutenant Harris, swallowed nervously as he tapped at his tablet. "We're estimating less than an hour. Their primary weapon is charging. The energy output is off the charts." Elise nodded. There was no panic in her movements, no tremor in her words. "We knew this day would come. Get everyone to their stations." She turned to the team of engineers at the back of the room. "And give me something, anything, that can slow them down." The engineers, led by Dr. Jonathan Carter, a grizzled veteran of Earth's space program, exchanged uneasy glances. "Commander," Carter began, "this weapon, it's beyond anything we've ever seen. The energy signature alone suggests it could vaporize half the planet in one shot." "Then we need a miracle, Doctor," Elise replied. "Find me one." Outside the bunker, chaos reigned. The streets were flooded with people trying to flee, seeking safety where none existed. The world had united too late. Years of infighting, mistrust, and denial had allowed the Galactic Union to grow in strength, while humanity's defenses remained a patchwork of untested technology and hopeful improvisation. Above them, in the silent void of space, the Union's flagship loomed. It was sleek, black as obsidian, and shaped like a crescent moon. At its core sat the extinguisher, the weapon that had wiped out entire species, reduced planets to lifeless husks. The Galactic Union, a collection of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, saw humanity as a virus, rebellious, chaotic, unworthy of the stars. Earth had been warned to submit, to integrate peacefully. Humanity, as always, refused. Admiral Thresvok, the Union commander, stood aboard the bridge of his flagship, gazing down at the blue planet with cold, calculating eyes. "Foolish," he muttered in his native tongue, a low hiss that his crew understood instinctively. "They cling to life with such desperation, yet offer nothing to the cosmos." A junior officer approached. "Admiral, the extinguisher is ready. Shall we begin?" Thresvok nodded. "End this rebellion. Let it be known that defiance will not be tolerated." The extinguisher hummed to life, its core glowing with a malevolent light. Energy surged through the ship's conduits, building toward a single, devastating strike. Earth's final moments seemed certain. But then, silence. In the bunker, Lieutenant Harris stared at a screen. "Commander, something's wrong." Elise turned. "What do you mean?" "The weapon." Harris's fingers danced across his tablet, pulling up multiple feeds from the orbital satellites. It didn't fire." A stunned buzz rippled through the room. Dr. Carter rushed to Harris's side, peering over his shoulder. "That's impossible," he said. "The energy signature—" "I know," Harris interrupted. "But look, there's nothing. It's like it's been turned off." Elise's mind raced. This wasn't a reprieve. This was a mistake, a malfunction, and it wouldn't last. "Carter," she said sharply, "we need to figure out what happened. Now." Up above, aboard the Union's flagship, Admiral Thresvok stared at his crew in bewilderment. "Report!" he barked, his voice cutting through the stunned silence on the bridge. The extinguisher, the most advanced weapon in the galaxy, had failed. His officers scrambled to decipher the problem, running diagnostics, analyzing systems. "There's no fault in the weapon, Admiral," one officer finally reported, his voice trembling with confusion. "It's as if something external is preventing it from firing." "External," Thresvok repeated, his tone darkening. "Impossible." Yet the evidence was undeniable. Earth, the defiant world that should have been reduced to ash, still stood untouched. Back on the surface, Elise Navarro knew their time was short. The enemy would fix their weapons soon enough. And when they did, Earth would face the full fury of the Union. But for now, they had a window, one that no one had expected. "We've got one shot at this," Elise said, her voice steely with determination. She turned to Dr. Carter, her eyes narrowing. "Tell me you have something." Carter hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "There's the possibility. It's not elegant, and it's not guaranteed, but it might work." Elise smiled grimly. I'll take might. What do you have? Dr. Jonathan Carter paced in the crowded engineering bay, his mind racing as fast as the ideas being thrown around. Around him, a flurry of engineers, technicians, and physicists argued, scribbled on tablets, and manipulated 3D models of asteroid trajectories. The mysterious failure of the Union superweapon had bought them precious time, but the countdown to Earth's destruction had only paused, not stopped. We need something they won't expect, Carter muttered, half to himself, half to the frantic group assembled around him. Something crude, primitive. Primitive? Lieutenant Harris echoed, incredulous. We're facing a galactic fleet capable of vaporizing planets, and you want to go primitive? Carter stopped pacing and turned toward Harris, his eyes lit with the fire of a man who had already calculated the impossible in his head. Exactly. They think we're beneath them, Harris. They've relied on their superior technology, but if there's one thing history's taught us, it's that brute force and clever thinking can still topple giants. The room fell silent. Elise Navarro, standing near the doorway, folded her arms. Go on, Carter, she said, her voice calm but intrigued. He activated a hologram in the center of the room. The projection showed Earth, the moon, and an asteroid belt nearby. We have something they don't. Natural resources and celestial bodies we can manipulate. Asteroids, to be precise. What if we use a gravitational slingshot? Navarro frowned. You're suggesting we weaponize asteroids. Not just weaponize them, Carter said, his voice gaining momentum. We hurl them at near light speed, using gravity to propel them. The Union ships are massive, powerful, but they've never had to face something as crude and devastating as a rock traveling at that velocity. Their shields are designed for energy weapons, not for kinetic impacts of this scale. A buzz of disbelief spread through the engineers. Harris shook his head, rubbing his temples. This is insane. We'd have to precisely calculate trajectories and account for every planetary body between us and their fleet. One mistake, and we could hit Earth, or miss entirely. Carter's expression hardened. It's a long shot, yes, but it's the best shot we have. We don't have time to develop sophisticated countermeasures or match their firepower. What we do have is gravity, and it doesn't care how advanced you are. Navarro stepped forward, considering the weight of the plan. They had been outgunned from the start, always playing catch-up against a force that saw humanity as little more than an inconvenience. But Carter's idea, as audacious as it was, had merit. It was the kind of maneuver the Union would never expect, an assault born out of desperation and unshakable resolve. How soon can you make this happen, she asked. Carter exhaled, relieved she hadn't dismissed the idea outright. We'll need to repurpose some satellites to serve as gravitational tethers. If we can position them correctly, we can use the moon's gravity for an initial slingshot, then fine-tune the trajectory with Earth's pull. It'll take days to calculate everything, but with enough manpower. We don't have days, Navarro interrupted. They'll figure out what went wrong with their superweapon soon, and when they do, they won't hesitate to fire again. A young engineer, John Ponting, raised his hand hesitantly. Actually, we might not need days. We've already got several asteroids in near-Earth orbit. If we use the one closest to the moon, we can run a test shot within the next 24 hours. Navarro raised an eyebrow. A test? To see if we can pull off the calculations and get the asteroid moving fast enough, Ponting explained, glancing nervously at Carter. We'll have to improvise some of the tech, but the math checks out. Carter grinned, his earlier tension dissipating. See, this is why I love engineers. Always ready to make the impossible possible. Navarro turned to the group. All right, do it. We'll need everything to be perfect for the final launch. But this is our chance to show the Union they underestimated us. The room exploded into action, every hand and mind focused on preparing the test shot. Satellites were reprogrammed, calculations fine-tuned, and the closest asteroid, a massive chunk of space rock, was locked into the makeshift slingshot's trajectory. Hours later, the bunker grew quiet as the countdown to the test launch began. Carter and Ponting stood over the control console, fingers twitching as they monitored the asteroid's path. The tension in the air was palpable. No one dared breathe. 3, 2, 1, launch, Carter whispered. On the screens, the asteroid began its slow descent around the moon, picking up speed as it was whipped around by the moon's gravitational pull. The calculations were holding. As it slung around Earth, it shot off toward its target, a small Union scout ship orbiting at the edge of the fleet. Seconds later, a silent burst of light filled the screen. Navarro leaned in. Did we hit it? Ponting grinned. Direct hit. The asteroid punched right through the ship's hull. A stunned silence followed, then cheers erupted from the engineers. They had done it. Pulled off the first successful strike against the Union. Navarro's lips curved into a rare smile, but her eyes remained sharp. This is just the beginning. We'll need more than one asteroid to take down their flagship. How long until we can launch the rest? Carter's smile faded, replaced with the weight of their grim reality. Not long, but they're going to realize what we're doing soon enough. Then we better move fast, Navarro said, her voice steely with determination. This might be our only chance to strike before they destroy us all. As the team dispersed, racing against time to prepare the final assault, one thing was clear. Humanity had found its weapon. Now, they just had to survive long enough to use it. The sky above Earth shimmered with the silent movement of the Galactic Union's fleet, a constellation of warships preparing for what they assumed would be the final blow. On the ground, humanity's last line of defense was not a technological marvel, but a simple idea born from desperation and the cold calculations of physics. The Slingshot. Commander Elise Navarro stood in the central command bunker. Multiple asteroids were now primed, hurtling through space toward their targets, each one carefully calibrated to exploit the gravitational pull of Earth and the Moon. The room buzzed with the tension of a planet on the brink of either salvation or extinction. How long until the first impact? Navarro asked, her voice cutting through the chatter. 7 minutes. Dr. Jonathan Carter responded. The first volley is locked in. If our calculations are correct, we'll hit their outer perimeter hard enough to cripple several ships. Navarro's expression remained stoic, though the weight of what they were attempting hung in the air. And if they're wrong, Carter hesitated. If we miscalculated, the asteroids will miss their targets entirely. We'll lose our only chance to break their formation. Navarro nodded, already knowing the risks. They were betting everything on a crude tactic that no one had ever tried at the scale. But there was no room for doubt. She turned to Lieutenant Harris, who was monitoring the Union fleet's movements. What's their status? They're starting to realign, Commander, Harris said. Looks like they've realized their superweapon isn't going to work and are repositioning to bombard Earth with traditional ordnance. Navarro, clench your jaw. Then we don't have 7 minutes. Up in the void of space, Admiral Threspach stared out from the bridge of his flagship, his posture rigid, his face tight with frustration. He had not anticipated the humans' tenacity, nor their ability to neutralize the extinguisher. The sight of one of his scout ships obliterated by a mere asteroid had shaken his confidence. They're using their own celestial debris against us, Threspach growled, addressing his senior officers. Primitive fools. But it won't save them. Prepare for full bombardment. Admiral, an officer interrupted, his voice trembling. There are more asteroids inbound. Dozens of them. Threspach's eyes widened. What? They've launched multiple strikes, all using gravitational slingshots. We're tracking the trajectories now. But some are moving at evasive maneuvers. Threspach shouted. Full shields. On Earth. The command bunker was silent as the countdown continued. 6 minutes. 5. Each second seemed to stretch into eternity. Navarro stared at the hologram, watching as the asteroid paths grew closer to their targets. She could feel the entire planet holding its breath. Carter, she said quietly, what happens if their shields hold? Carter didn't look up from his screen. They won't. Not against this. They've never faced kinetic impacts at near light speed before. Their technology is advanced, but it wasn't designed for this kind of brute force. And if they figure out how to counter it, Carter exhaled sharply. Then we've lost. Navarro nodded once. Understood. At 3 minutes, the Union fleet began to scatter, their massive ships struggling to maneuver out of the path of the oncoming asteroids. But it was too late. The first asteroid, a jagged, moon-sized chunk of rock, slammed into the lead ship of the outer perimeter with the force of 1,000,000 nuclear warheads. The explosion lit up the hologram, a silent flash of light that signaled the death of the vessel. Direct hit, Harris shouted, unable to contain his excitement. They're scrambling. The command room erupted in cheers, but Navarro raised a hand, silencing them. Focus. This isn't over yet. More impacts followed in rapid succession. Each asteroid, propelled by gravitational slingshot, found its target with devastating precision. Union ships shattered, their advanced shields buckling under the sheer mass and speed of the projectiles. The Galactic Union, for all its technological superiority, had never prepared for a weapon as ancient as gravity itself. Up in space, Admiral Thresvock's flagship was now the last ship standing in the Union's main formation. The once pristine fleet was in ruins, debris floating through the void. His officers, once so confident, were now frantic, trying to calculate how to stop the asteroids. Brace for impact. Thresvock roared as the final asteroid, the largest yet, barreled toward them. His ship's shields flared to life, shimmering as the asteroid closed in. Back in the bunker, Navarro and her team watched in tense silence. This was the final shot. If the asteroid broke through, it would destroy the flagship and the Union's superweapon with it. The asteroid slammed into the flagship shields, causing a massive shockwave. For a brief moment, it seemed the shields might hold. Then, with a deafening crack, they shattered. The asteroid tore through the ship, and in an instant, the Galactic Union's greatest weapon was no more. The bunker erupted in cheers once again, louder this time. Navarro allowed herself a small, triumphant smile, though her mind was already racing ahead. They had won, but the cost had been high. The Union had been forced into retreat, but there was no telling when or if they would return. She turned to Carter, who was still staring at the hologram in disbelief. "We did it," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. Navarro nodded. "For now. But we need to prepare for what comes next. They won't underestimate us again." As the room began to settle, the first taste of victory still fresh in the air, one thing was clear. Humanity had survived the impossible, but their greatest challenge had only just begun.